Good morning, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Audit Committee for June 24th, 2024. I'm Elliot Payne, and I'm the chair of this committee. At this time, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll so that we can verify the presence of a quorum.
Committee member Abeni is absent. Chugtai is absent. Hosbein is absent. Omar?
Present.
Williams?
Present.
Vice Chair Singleton?
Present.
Chair Payne?
Present.
There are 4 committees members present.
Let the record reflect that we have a quorum and that we are also joined by member Chugtai. Colleagues, our agenda is before us. May I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Committee member Chugtai?
Aye.
Omar?
Aye.
Williams?
Aye.
Vice Chair Singleton?
Aye.
Chair Payne?
Aye.
There are 5 ayes.
That carries and the agenda is adopted. Next, we have acceptance of the minutes from our regular meeting of April 22nd, 2024, and the special meeting on May 14th, 2024. May I have a motion to accept those minutes?
So moved. Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. That carries and the minutes are accepted. Our next item of business, item 3, is approving an amendment to the approved 2024 Enterprise Risk Assessment and Risk-Based Integrated Audit Plan. I will invite Siddhartha Pudyal, Interim City Auditor, to introduce this item.
Good morning, Chair Payne and Audit Committee members. So for this one, I'd like to request for approval to modify one of the projects in the current audit plan, which is the Neighborhood Safety Contract and Grant Management Consultation. So the request is to change as a project type from consultation to audit. So basically, this way it gives us an opportunity to do an in-depth analysis of the process. When we do a consultation, it's more review of the design of the internal controls and limited testing versus audit. We do a little bit in-depth analysis and the more testing of the controls as well. So we thought like probably at this time it'll be a better value add for the city to perform audit versus just the consultation. So I'd like to request your approval to modify that as a part of the audit plan.
Thank you, Mr. Pudyal. Is there any discussion on this? Any questions? I'll add that I've been working really closely with Mr. Pudyal on the status of the risk assessment, and a number of colleagues on City Council have also had a lot of questions, of which there's been limited information that can be shared since it's an ongoing risk assessment. And so I think that for the sake of better transparency, this is going to be really helpful because I know there's a lot of questions that people want to see answers to, and a full audit should be able to get us to some of those answers with clarity. So really appreciate this.
All right, thank you.
Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. That carries. And our next item of business, item 4, is discussing plans for the recruitment process for the role of city auditor. I added this to the agenda because I actually wanted to hear from everybody on the committee about what you were hoping to see in our next city auditor. I was able to participate in the search the last round. It was after I was no longer on the committee, but the former chair, Paul Masano, invited me to be on the search committee, and I thought it was a really positive exercise to have gone through that and make sure that, looking at national candidates was really helpful. We did settle on Mr. Patrick, who was our interim at the time, and I thought that going through that process actually lended a lot of credibility to the role, and I'm hoping to achieve the same this time around. But I was just wanted to use this as a platform to discuss what maybe some of the things you all would like to see. Member Williams.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. I think that a national search for a role like this would be super important. Someone who has experience both obviously within the audit community, but also working with the community. I think that's something that, it's one of the reasons that we're here is to bring credibility that there's both a council feel to it, but also a communal feel as well. So hopefully someone who also has experience working with and for the community, I think would be important as well.
Thank you. Vice Chair Singleton.
Thank you. I just wanted to echo those remarks. I think a national search makes a lot of sense for all of the reasons that have been discussed. I also view the audit director role as somewhat of a bridge, where the person should have a strong, foundational audit background, of course, but then also have other experiences that can help kind of translate the audit findings and the reasons for audits and risk assessments to lay people who don't have that type of background. So I see that kind of communication function to be really important as well.
Any other considerations that we're looking for? One thing I'll note just from my experience both in the last term and this term is just this new role of the city auditor elevating from internal auditor and the additional complexity that brings. And one thing I'm hoping to see is somebody that there's this kind of fine line of being objective and independent and not crossing into the realm of the political. But I do think that the role of the city auditor has been elevated to a point where there are considerable political pressures, and I want somebody who can be adept at navigating those political pressures while maintaining that independence and objectivity. I'm curious if anybody sees, especially as we look at, the need for this to be a certified person with that very hard skill, but from a soft skill perspective, is there any risks or pause that brings when you think about somebody having some level of political savvy? Member Williams?
It's a good question. I think the essence of an independent body looking at the information that's brought upon both this committee and other committees and not having that tied into the political realm is an important one. I understand that those two things can't be bifurcated all the time, but many of the things that are being brought forward to us have a political feel to it. So I think the important part of it is not having any feeling or thought that there's any bias in what the future city auditor is doing. Your point's valid, though. I definitely think that navigating, understanding how the political environment works is an important one. I just think it's super important that independent feel and body is there as well.
Any other thoughts? Vice Chair Singleton.
Yeah, I'd agree that it definitely needs to be somebody who's independent, but I don't see how that role can be successful without having the ability, those soft skills that you were speaking about, to navigate the political waters, especially with the type of work that the audit department is doing with legislative research, with the public safety audit. Those are all very charged issues. In order to be successful, you need to build strong relationships, I think. So I think even though there are risks associated with that, I think that is an essential function.
And then I'll ask this question of the body. I personally prefer a national search, but there are benefits to somebody being a local candidate, and there are trade-offs there, right? Somebody who comes from outside of our context, that actually helps solidify that sense of independence because maybe they don't have prior relationships that, might cause, the appearance of conflict. At the same time, like you're saying, there's a lot of value in having established relationships, especially across the institution. And, when you weigh those two, I think reasonable people can land on either side. And I'm wondering, does anybody here have a preference one way or the other? Member?
So I like a national search. One, it just broadens the talent pool, and I do think it helps with the neutrality in our local issues. And we might end up going with a local candidate, but why not widen it if we have the resources to do so?
Mm-hmm. Member Chugtai, any thoughts?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would say I agree that there is a benefit to doing a national search, and I don't think it closes the door to landing on a local candidate. I think it in fact strengthens the justification for hiring or ultimately choosing the local candidate when we brought in the search in that way. I would say a consideration that this body should reflect on and ultimately make a decision on is, national searches are incredibly expensive. And so is that something we want to devote the resources to? And then, I would say that, on the question of, what's the balance of independence from the administration or the enterprise in general that is that this role has so much oversight authority over, versus the development of relationships and needing to make sure that the staff within the audit department are able to carry out their work day to day. I would say I think I land closer to you, Mr. Chair, on wanting to have a lot more independence and have an arm's length of distance. And I fully understand that the role of the city auditor is ultimately in overseeing their department and overseeing their staff and wanting to make sure that the staff are able to carry out their work in a timely way and in a constructive way. So I think those are broadly my thoughts that others have brought up here as well.
One thing that's comes to mind, especially in reflecting on some past conversations with the previous auditor, was just around what it's like to work with the focus of your audit, the team what's the day-to-day life for that team working with the people that are being audited, and how having good relationships really helps. There's some people can see an audit as something that maybe is antagonistic, but usually I feel like at least the approach that I've seen from your body of work has been much more collaborative with the administration. And I know that there are limits to how far you can get, either being too collaborative or too punitive, for lack of a better term. But I'm wondering if the body has any perspective on that, about whether or not you want somebody that has much more of a kind of like a softer collaborative approach versus a much more firm, kind of inquisitive approach, for lack of a better term. Member Williams?
Also, a good point. First and foremost, I think the audit group has done a tremendous job of building the relationships in order to get the honesty, so that they can then go in and do the research that they need. So I definitely think maybe I won't call it softness, but I'll call it the relationship building aspect of whomever that is going to be tremendously important in order to even get into areas that need to be audited. However, I will say on the back end of that audit, once information is collected, once the team does what they need to do, whatever needs to change, recommend, or be spoken about, I think is definitely important to be on the firm side of things. And maybe firm, again, is not the right word, but on the honesty side of it, maybe is the better way of saying it. The things that have been brought forward since I've been on this committee are important. I think they've made tremendous change on it, and I think there's a lot more to go. So I definitely think it's relationships on the front end and then honesty on the back end in order to get to where we want to be.
Excellent. Any other final remarks? Okay, seeing none, I will ask the clerk to file those comments so that we can refer to those at a later date as we continue the search. Next item of business is item number 5, which is an update from the Office of the City Auditor on work in progress. I will again invite our interim city auditor, Siddhartha Pujal, to introduce that presentation.
Good morning, Chair Payne and member of the audit committees. I'd like to provide an update on all the projects audit division has been working on right now. So the content-wise, we're going to go through all the completed and in-progress audit work. So for this audit committee, we don't have any like a completed report, but so there are 6 total audit projects going on right now, and one of the Park Police biennial body-worn camera is the new audit we started since the last audit committee meeting, and we do have like an investigation overview and also the prior issue follow-up. So the first one is the IT outage after action review, which is in progress, and the objective of this review is to review the city's response to the outage, assess the outage impact on the city departments, examine factors that may have contributed to the outage, and identify ways for the city to mitigate any future events. So that's still in progress. So hopefully by next audit committee meeting, maybe we could be able to finish this as well and provide more update on this one in the next audit committee. So the next one is the facilities management audit. We're in field work of the audit right now. And the objective of this audit is to review the effectiveness and efficiency of controls around cities' facilities, maintenance and repairs. And as I mentioned in my last audit committee meeting as well, so there was a turnover in our office as well as in their office as well. So that's why we had a little bit of delay for this project, but we are working actively with them to finalize the issues and go through the reporting phase right now. But right now, almost done with the field work. So the next one is the neighborhood safety departmental risk assessment. So basically, the objective of this assessment is to work with the neighborhood safety in establishing and conducting a departmental risk assessment activity that self-identifies, evaluates, and responds to risk. So as a part of this one, we did work with Director Nelson Brown and her key staff, and we met with them multiple times and conducted these working sessions with them. So we are in the back end of this assessment. So we met with everyone that were involved as a part of the process, and working on this one. So hopefully my goal is to at least complete the risk assessment by the next audit committee meeting as well. But so this one, I'd say it's 85% complete. So the next project we're working on is the PCARD audit, and the objective of this audit is to determine whether controls for the administration and monitoring of the purchasing card program are in place and functioning as intended to reduce the risk of fraud, waste, and abuse. And so this audit as well, we're wrapping up the field work right now, and we'll be in the reporting phase where we identify, all these issues and discuss those issues with the management and draft the report. So right now we're wrapping up the field work on this one as well. So the next one is the MPD fleet management audit. So the objective of this audit is to review the processes and controls around fleet management at MPD, including squad cars, to ensure they are sufficient and operating effectively. So for this audit, we just are in fieldwork status, and we issued the scope memo a couple of weeks ago, because of what we transitioned from planning to fieldwork. So right now we're working with management to understand the process and also receiving some of those detailed information so that we can perform our testing as well. So right now this is in fieldwork status. So this is the new audit we started since last audit committee, which is the Park Police biennial body-worn camera audit. And the objective of this audit is to test the Minneapolis Park Police compliance with the state law regarding the body-worn camera. And this, like it mentioned in the title, so basically we have to perform this audit every 2 years. And last year we performed for the MPD. And so this year we're gonna complete the same audit for the Park Police as well, and this one is in planning stage right now. Before I move to the fraud, waste, and abuse investigation numbers, if Chair Payne and audit committee members, if you have any questions.
Member Williams.
Just a quick question on the MPD fleet management audit. I know you've said this before. Can you remind me, is this a timing? So do you do this every so often, or is there an issue that came up that caused for the MPD fleet management audit?
So this one was, from my understanding, so this fleet management was part of that risk assessment, that annual risk assessment as well. So there is not a specific timing-wise, we need to perform this audit every so many years, but it was based on how often we look at this process and based the timing of like when was the last time we looked at it, and I don't know when was the last time it was looked at it. So as a part of that annual risk assessment process, we selected this audit to be performed.
Okay, thank you.
And then I was curious, as far as the risk assessment for neighborhood safety, would it be accurate to say that the risk assessment is complete and now is transitioning into audit, or would you say that risk assessment is ongoing
So,
during audit?
like I said, it's still ongoing, and we're the back end of the risk assessment, so it's not, so we have done a lot of work as a part of that risk assessment, but it's not complete yet.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the fraud, waste, and abuse investigations. So right now we have like 4 open investigation that we're following up on for the anything related to fraud, waste, and abuse investigations. So for the prior audit issues follow up. So right now we have 27 open audit issues, and out of which like 6 of them are overdue, and we are validating some of these issues, which is like 18 audit issues that we have received some kind of supporting documents, and so we're actively validating whether they have been closed or not. But since the last audit committee meeting, we have closed the 2 open issues related to the 2022 internal investigation process audit. And like I said, so overall, for the 2022 internal investigation process audit, all the issues have been successfully remediated by management and marked as closed. So in total, we had 7 audit issues, one of which was low, and others were either high or medium. And so for this audit committee, they resolved the 2, and the remaining 4 were resolved as of like a last audit committee meeting. So we can now say that they have remediated all the audit issues that were identified during the audit. And these are all the list of reports that we're actively working on to close the audit issues as well. And that was all that as a part of the auditor update. If you have any questions, Chair Payne and audit committee members at this time.
Thank you for that presentation. Are there any other questions or discussion? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
And seeing no further questions, I'll direct the clerk to receive and file the report. And seeing no further business before us and without objection, I will declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you.